2020, it was the year of the nurse. This was also the year the public saw how nurses always step up. I experienced this in my own practice, but most impactfully when I was deployed to the COVID ICU last spring. It all started last February when my mom called me one day and she asked me, "Have you heard of the coronavirus?" "Yeah, Mom. Patients come in with it all the time. It's like the common cold." Her response, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, you must have it mixed up with something else." Well, guess what? She didn't. I mean, when isn't my mom always right? The first week of March, our first novel coronavirus landed on our unit. This was not the normal coronavirus we see. The fear and anxiety on our unit was unparalleled. I could feel my heart race at the unknown, and the sweat on my palms, it spread throughout my entire body. This time I knew it wasn't the side effects from menopause, but the unanswered questions and the unknown risks. Our first patient was admitted into a specialized isolation room, and we had in-services on how to dress in our special isolation gear. You know, that gear that resembled spacesuits? Within weeks, Pennsylvania was in a lockdown. And New York, it had become an epicenter just hours away. A worldwide pandemic sounds so huge, so big, right? It was affecting individuals without discrimination, as I soon found out when I arrived to one of my shifts in the middle of March. A newly admitted patient was in bed 8. I was told in report he was a middle-aged male with no past medical history. Let me repeat, no past medical history. But what I didn't realize was the connection I had with this very patient. So I got my isolation spacesuit gear on and entered room 8. And laying in the bed, attached to a ventilator, hooked up to multiple IV pumps, was not just any patient. This was my physician, my OBGYN. But so much more than that. He was the one who talked me off the ledge and held my hand through my surprise high-risk pregnancy due to maternal age. He was the one who would listen, validate, and squeeze me into his schedule every time I found a lump and thought I must be dying, because what nurse doesn't automatically think the worst? He was the doctor that would call to check on me after procedures, even if it was later in the evening. Why? Because he cared. He had cared for me during some of the scariest moments in my life, and now I would be caring for him. This pandemic had now become personal. By April, the population of COVID patients needing ICU care overwhelmed our unit, and it created a strain on our staffing. So other specialized ICU nurses across the hospital were being sent to care for these patients alongside of us. The catch was, ready for this? They were specialized in neurology, cardiology, and surgery, not pulmonary critical care. It was time to form a plan. Let me ask you this. Has anyone ever been skydiving? Anyone? Well, I did last year. Yes, in April 2020, I went skydiving. I mean, why not? It was the year of the nurse, right? It may have been metaphorically, but it felt legit real. Let me reassure you, skydiving isn't just about jumping out of planes. Nope, you have to know at what altitude to open your parachute at in order to glide to a safe landing. Now, I want you to picture for a moment the MICU team of nurses that I work with as professional skydiving coaches last spring in the COVID ICU. We were tandem to other specialized ICU nurses, provided guidance and support from takeoff at admission and landing at discharge and everything in between. After all, if you don't know when to release your parachute, it could be fatal. This is at least how I imagined myself last spring. Strapping myself as the expert onto colleagues from other units, guiding them through protocols related to paralytics, sedation, and proning, and supporting them until they felt confident to jump out of that plane alone. You see, nursing in general has always been the paratroopers of healthcare. It just took a worldwide pandemic for the public to acknowledge it. Fast forward to the end of April. My GYN I had mentioned to you earlier, well, he remained in the ICU. He'd been prone, was experiencing ICU delirium, and had sustained a stroke due to COVID. Each shift I worked, I was hell-bent on keeping my hope for his recovery alive. It'd been over 40 days since he was admitted to our unit when I was walking by his room. His nurse came out and said, "Wendy, he just asked if that was you." I immediately went into his room, jumping into my spacesuit first, of course, and I heard his voice over the trach say, "Wendy Palma?" I knew he was back. I felt the tears fall from my eyes, and I sat and held his hand, and we cried together. Dr. Matthew Bashar was discharged from our unit May 4th. He continues his recovery and is doing well. We have a date for lunch on the unit this coming May 4th to celebrate. He's here in the audience tonight, and I couldn't be more grateful. This past year was clearly one of the toughest ones to date. And I was reminded of some pretty valuable things. First, the most important things in life, well, they're just not things. Second, this year solidified my passion for bedside nursing after 23 years. And lastly, but probably most importantly, always listen to your mom. Thank you.